Hello and welcome back to Hank USA. I'm Hank. If Interstate 95 is a road you ever use, whether you drive it daily, now and then, or you're planning a trip this summer, pay close attention. I've got some important updates you should hear before you get behind the wheel again. And if you never touch I-95, stay with me anyway. The enforcement changes happening on that highway right now are spreading to major roads all over the country. The new rules catching drivers off guard on I-95 today are the same ones likely to reach your state by this summer, if they haven't already. Before we get into the details, please give this video a like, subscribe to Hank USA, and turn on the notification bell. Traffic laws and enforcement in 2026 are changing faster than most people can keep up with. For a lot of folks, the first time they hear about a new rule is when a fine shows up in the mailbox. Subscribing is how you stay ahead of it. Let's start with why I-95 matters even if your daily drive is 1,000 miles away. I-95 runs about 1,900 miles from the Canadian border in Maine all the way to Miami. It passes through 15 states and Washington, D.C., and on a typical day, it carries hundreds of thousands of vehicles. It's one of the busiest highways in the country, and also one of the most dangerous, with more than 1,100 deaths along its route over the last 5-year reporting period. That combination of heavy traffic and real danger is exactly why I-95 has become a testing ground for the new enforcement technology rolling out nationwide in 2026. What gets tested and proven on I-95 tends to spread everywhere else. So this applies to nearly every driver in the country. The first change took effect on I-95 in Delaware on May 23, 2026. That day, the Delaware Department of Transportation began issuing live fines from a new speed camera in the Churchman's Marsh work zone on the northbound side of I-95 near Wilmington. It's part of a bridge rehabilitation project expected to run until the middle of 2027. When the camera first switched on, there was a 3-week warning period with no real fines. That grace period ended May 23rd. Since then, any vehicle going 11 miles per hour or more over the work zone's posted 55 mile per hour limit gets an automatic civil violation notice. Here's how the fine works. A base penalty of $20 plus $1 for every mile per hour over the limit plus court fees. So a driver clocked at 66, just 11 over, gets a citation for $118 or more. At 75, the penalty climbs from there. Now look at what the camera caught in its first 3 days of operation, back during the warning period, May 2nd through 5th. In just 72 hours, it recorded more than 10,000 vehicles going fast enough to trigger a fine. 39 of them were over 100 miles per hour. The single fastest was clocked at 139 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour work zone. Those aren't freak events. They reflect a driving pattern that's become normal on this road. And now, it's being recorded and fined automatically. But here's the detail most drivers miss. These are civil penalties. No officer, no traffic stop, no chance to explain your side. The camera captures your plate. A reviewer confirms the violation, and the notice goes to the registered owner of the vehicle. It doesn't matter who was driving. The owner gets the bill. And unlike a regular ticket, these civil camera violations in Delaware add no points to your license. That sounds like good news, and in some ways it is, but it also means you have fewer formal protections if you want to contest one. This isn't Delaware's first camera. An earlier program on I-95 near the Route 896 interchange went live in July 2024. It generated more than 400,000 speeding violations and cut average speeds by about 10% in both directions. The new Churchman's Marsh camera is an expansion of that. Similar programs are already running in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and a growing list of other states. The second change is one a lot of people still don't know about, on one of the busiest stretches of the whole corridor. It's Pennsylvania's Paul Miller's Law. The law itself took effect back on June 5th, 2025, but for the first full year, police only issued written warnings. That warning period just ended. As of June 5th, 2026, officers can now write real tickets. So this one is live right now. Under Paul Miller's law, using a handheld phone while driving is a primary offense in Pennsylvania, carrying a $50 fine plus court costs. Primary offense is the key phrase. It means an officer can pull you over just for seeing a phone in your hand. No other violation needed. And it applies even when you're stopped in traffic or sitting at a red light. If you're at a light on I-95 in Philadelphia and you pick up your phone to check a text, you can be pulled over and ticketed. That's a much stricter standard than the older distracted driving laws, which often only applied while the car was moving. Pennsylvania now joins more than 24 other states with primary enforcement of handheld bans, including Florida, Ohio, California, New York, and New Jersey. If you're driving through just about any state along the I-95 corridor, from Maine down through Florida, you're almost certainly in a jurisdiction with primary enforcement. The penalties can sting. A first offense in New York runs up to $200 and 5 points on your license. In New Jersey, a first offense can cost $200 to $400. And in New York, if you accumulate 6 points within 18 months, you also get hit with the state's driver responsibility assessment, a fee billed directly by the DMV, on top of anything your own insurer does. The third change involves a law most people think they already understand, the move over law. It's existed in every state for years, and most drivers know the basic idea. See an emergency vehicle on the shoulder with lights flashing, move into the next lane, or slow down. What a lot of drivers haven't caught up with is that the law has been expanded. In Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and a growing number of other states, changes in 2025 and 2026 now extend it to any vehicle on the shoulder with its hazard lights on, not just police, fire, and ambulances. That could be a broken down family car, a delivery truck, or a tow truck that hasn't switched on its main lights yet. If a vehicle is on the shoulder with its hazards blinking, the move over obligation applies to everyone passing it. There's a specific threshold here, and this is where drivers slip up. Just knowing you should slow down isn't enough. In most of these states, if you can't safely change lanes, you're legally required to drop to a specific speed, typically 20 miles per hour below the posted limit. In a 45 mile per hour zone, that means slowing to 25. Tapping the brakes and shedding 5 or 10 isn't compliance. Fines for a move-over violation along the I-95 corridor generally run $150 to $500 for a first offense, climbing for repeats. And in several states, if a violation causes injury or property damage, it can bring a mandatory license suspension. The fourth change is about technology that catches drivers off guard in a different way, and there's a lot of confusion about it, so let me be precise. Two things are actually spreading along I-95. The first is variable speed limits. On parts of the corridor, including a stretch in Virginia near Fredericksburg, the limit isn't fixed. Overhead electronic signs change the posted number in real time based on traffic and conditions ahead, dropping it from 70 down to as low as 40 when congestion or a work zone shows up. Those posted limits are legally enforceable, exactly like a regular sign. The trap is that a driver on autopilot doesn't notice the overhead number has dropped and sails right past the new, lower limit. So on these stretches, you have to actually watch the electronic signs, not assume the limit is whatever it was a mile back. The second is the steady spread of fixed cameras beyond just work zones. Virginia law, for example, now allows photo speed enforcement in work zones, in school crossing zones, and at certain high-risk intersections with a history of fatal crashes, with a civil penalty of up to $100 for going 10 or more over. More states authorize this kind of thing every year. You may have heard about average speed, or point-to-point systems, where cameras at each end of a stretch clock your average speed over the whole distance. That method is common in Europe, but it's not how enforcement works on I-95 today. U.S. programs still rely on fixed, single-location cameras and officers. The practical takeaway is the same either way. Watch the posted limit, including those overhead electronic signs, because it can change, and treat any work zone, school zone, or trouble spot intersection as possibly camera enforced. The fifth and final piece isn't about the moment of the violation. It's about what happens months later, and there's a common misconception I want to clear up. You'll often hear that a single speed camera ticket sends your insurance through the roof. For these civil camera citations, that's usually not how it works. Because they carry no license points and are issued to the vehicle's owner rather than recorded as a moving violation on your driving record, they typically aren't even reported to your insurance company. Delaware's program, for instance, states plainly that no points are assessed and your insurer is not notified. The same goes for a Paul Miller's Law ticket in Pennsylvania, which adds no points for regular drivers. What does drive your premium up is a traditional moving violation conviction, the kind an officer writes that puts points on your license. Get a couple of those in a year, and yes, your rate can jump 15% to 30% at renewal and stay elevated for about 3 years. The lesson isn't that every camera ticket wrecks your insurance. It's to avoid the point-carrying violations that actually follow you, and to know that a civil camera fine, while annoying and real, usually isn't one of them. Of course, this varies by state and insurer, so it's worth checking your own. There's one more insurance issue worth knowing about, and it's expanding in 2026: real-time electronic insurance verification. States like New York now require insurers to report your coverage status to state databases in real time, so law enforcement and the DMV can instantly confirm whether your policy is active without you showing a paper card. A one-day lapse, a payment missed by a day, or an auto renewal that quietly failed can get flagged automatically during a stop. And a coverage lapse often isn't just a one-time fine. It can mean a surcharge that follows you for years. So let's pull the whole picture together for everyone driving I-95 and the major highways everywhere this summer. First, the Delaware speed camera on I-95 started issuing live fines on May 23rd. The warning period is over. Second, Pennsylvania's Paul Miller's Law took effect in 2025, and as of June 5th, 2026, the warning period ended, so handheld phone use is now a ticketable primary offense. Third, move-over laws now cover any vehicle with hazard lights on in a growing number of states, and they require a real speed reduction, often 20 below the limit, not just a casual slowdown. Fourth, variable speed limits and the spread of fixed cameras mean you have to watch the posted limit closely, including overhead electronic signs that change it on the fly. And fifth, don't panic that a single civil camera ticket will wreck your insurance. It usually won't, since those carry no points. It's the point-carrying moving violations and any lapse in your coverage that follow you and cost you for years. The enforcement system on American highways in 2026 is just different. It doesn't always stop you to explain. It records you, identifies you, and mails the penalty straight to your home, sometimes before you've even gotten back from your trip. As always, this is general information, so check the specific rules and fines in your own state. This has been Hank with Hank USA. If this helped, please give it a like, subscribe, and share it with anyone you know who drives I-95 or any major highway this summer. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one.